Researchers at Emory University are now helping study whether booster shots will be needed to help contain the spread of COVID-19. One of the three things you need to know about today. They're working with Moderna to see if booster shots protecting against variants will be needed. The research will focus on how long the COVID-19 vaccine shot will be effective and side effects that could potentially come. Right now, it's unclear how long the protection from the vaccine lasts, although there is data that shows it could be at least 6 months. As of today, the U.S. death toll from COVID tops 600,000 lives. For perspective, that is greater than the population of Baltimore or Milwaukee. And it's about the same number of people who died from cancer in all of 2019. However, new COVID data shows a drop in cases likely does come from more people getting the vaccine. And getting people vaccinated quickly is important as variants emerge. The CDC announcing the Delta variant accounts for 10% of new cases. At the end of May, that figure was just 2.7%. The CDC calling a variant of concern that has more severe side effects and is more easily transmitted. Still, there is evidence that vaccines minimize symptoms from variants and help prevent more people from being admitted to the hospital.
Millions